a month, which actually you let me know. Okay, so we are here at Waters Garden Center, and we are glad that you have tuned in here at Waters Garden Center. It's wintry, it's weathery, but it doesn't matter. We're getting ready. This is our start. Next week is spring. I hope. Looks like the weather turns, maybe even tomorrow. It gets bright and sunny. At least we'll be snow on the ground, but it'll be bright and sunny. We'll take it. We've got vendors coming in from all over the place. They're going to teach the class tomorrow at 9:30. I'm going to have them introduce their plants, which is kind of super interesting to hear a nerdy. They'll do Latin, but they'll go deep into botanicals. I'll try to get them back out of the greenhouse and talk common language with us so we can all understand what they're saying, but it's kind of fun to watch. What I thought here is I went through the garden center and I curated some of my favorites that I've seen come in the last week or two, and I thought I'd show them off. So I've got the shade mix conifers. We're trying to specialize in a lot of conifers, the needled evergreen things. Show off a couple of those funky new weird ones, a couple natives. Next week we're going to launch our pre-order for some of the funky new, really unusual native plants. Tuesday, watch for that. It'll be a plant drop. You can order them then. And then they're still at the farm finishing up, but they'll be in about 3 weeks. You can kind of cherry pick those off yourself. But I've got a couple of them here. I thought I'd show you. And then I've got tomatoes, mainly so my friends don't make mistakes. I know some of my hardcore gardeners, that's you all, are going to start early, and I encourage it. Just make sure they don't stay outside in the snow because they won't like that. So, but I thought I'd just show them off, going, don't do this, not that kind of stuff. And then we got to fertilize. We have to fertilize. Now, Ken, you're running the soundboard. I had shot the handouts I was going to hand out to the team. Did you get those links? So just embed those. Perfect. So look for those. If you're tuned in, they'll be over in that edge. Look for the links. For the class members, I'll email it directly to you all. So look for that. And I did bring so I've got, I did do that. I've got how to fertilize. That one's, again, you can download it yourself, read it in however you're watching this. If you want to copy that. And then I had two others I was going to give you. One, I wrote an article on the birth months. What's your flower every month of the year? Kind of fun, something different. If you want to see, there is something that blooms all 12 months out of the year. Of course, December, it's going to be poinsettias. Now it's going to be daffodils. So you see every month has a featured. I thought I'd give that to you. So there's 12 flowers. And then we're starting to see hummingbirds at the garden center. So they're throughout here. They're buzzing around the flowers. So they're migrating up. I thought I'd give you the 9 flowers hummingbirds absolutely cannot resist. So this is kind of our weekend flower festival. This is the 63rd season we've been open. So 63 years in business. Waters Garden Center. We were the very first garden center to open in northern Arizona. Back in the 50s, 60s, there were a few on Baseline Road, few growers up there. We used to have a geranium grower off of Miller Valley Road, basically just focused on geraniums. But the first garden center, trees, shrubs. Harold Waters, my father-in-law, he moved up here and he started doing work for the developers. You have a nice home you're building. What do you want? To dress it up with a few nice things to make the yard look good. There wasn't anything up here. So back 63 years ago, he would drive over to California with a trailer, pick up plants, mainly junipers and a few mugo pines, drive back, and then he would sell them out of a small green. The first garden center was off of Miller Valley Road. the second garden center. Anyone remember where that was? It's off of Gale Gardner, across from the bowling alley that's right there. You see a bunch of office complexes. That was the garden center. And then this is our new place. We moved here in 1983. Not so new. We never dreamed we'd use all the property, but I wish I had a couple more acres to go with, but you do with it what you can. So that's kind of Waters Garden Center in a 63-year history. Harold Waters had 4 very attractive daughters. I married the youngest and I think most attractive daughter, Lisa. She's working here today. And then Lisa and I, we've had 4 kids that we've raised and taught them how to come to work. You know, you didn't get allowances. You had to come to work and get paid. And so they kind of did that for all 4 of them. They have very strong work ethics. My youngest daughter, Mackenzie, she's now training. She's the general manager of this place because I want to take my girlfriend of 38 years, Lisa, and I've been married a long time. We like to travel, so I want to be able to give the reins to Mackenzie, have her run the place, and then we can have a little bit more autonomy to go visit grandkids and things. So that's kind of the history of us. Today, I thought I'd go over just feature mainly just plants, and then maybe 2 things you really need to do now. If you're out in the yard at all, as soon as that snow thaws, you should be doing these 2 things, garden tasks. But mainly it's about the plants. Now, why don't I start down here? We'll see if this camera will track us. Yes, it will. This is one that I'm very excited about. So Chris Shipley will be here tomorrow. He grew this. He's with Savano Nursery down in Tucson. He's famous throughout, basically he supplies the native plants from San Diego all the way to Louisiana. His trucks are all over the place, but he grows, this is the nicest rosewood, Arizona rosewood I have ever seen. He's an amazing grower. This is a true native. I would not put this on my drip irrigation. I'd put it out there with the manzanitas, the mallows, put it out there by the, and when you remember, go ahead and water it. If you're going to kill this, it will be from overwatering. It does, this is its winter color, has this really rich, deep green the rest of the year. And it does put on quite a nice little flower to it in the spring. But this is kind of what you get. It's just a native. I think it's hardier, longer lived by far than manzanita ever dreamed of being, and it gets bigger. So mine in my backyard is probably up above head high, whereas most manzanitas are in that hip to kind of about this tall. This one's got the just more size to it. So this big cavernous backyard, and I just want to soften up that fence line on the back. So it's on that back side. It's back behind the dry wash, back where you don't go that often, but you're looking down at the garden. You want something that looks really handsome down there. Arizona rosewood is a go-to plant. So anyway, just something new. It's not that new. It's super unusual because you're going to find this in Waters Garden Center, of course, because it's such an unusual, funky native plant. So we're trying to focus on more drought hardy. We're going to stop calling them native. Tell me what you think of this. We're not going to call them natives because no one knows what that is. What does someone want when they're truly asking for a native plant? I think it's, I want low maintenance, easy to care for. I want to take the cruise ship to the Panama Canal. I want to visit the grandkids on a 3-month RV trip. When I come back, I want my plants to be alive. That's what I really want. So we're focused on more and more plants like that. So we're going to change the narrative some, see if I can't get more people to plant natives. And this is one that we're going to push. It's just a spectacular specimen. If you're into native plants, this is a very cool one. We're also trying to focus more on conifers. This is related to, can you guess? Long-needled pine, ponderosa pine. It is a direct cousin, only it's dwarfed. So instead of 100-foot tall, and basically you're planting a trunk, this only gets 12 feet tall, and it keeps this beautiful ball-shaped long pine tree. Gets a pine cone on it, and the guy that grew this He's en route now, so he'll tomorrow. If you want to meet the grower that made conifers, he's truly an artist when it comes to growing these funky, weird conifers. But this one's going to adapt really well. Again, this is made. We have natural pine tree forests here. This is going to adapt right in there. So it's called Jeffrey's pine. Anyway, just unusual, different. Can you see that on camera? Is that okay? Oh, good. All right. Another one. This is Joe's Bess conifer. It's a pine. It's a pinyon pine. I would use this. It's a dwarf. It's going to be ancient before it gets like this tall. So this one you use in your containers, raised beds. This was last year's growth right there. So you use this kind of like you do an Alberta spruce, which I'm bored selling. I put my kids through college selling Alberta spruce. It's this cute little Christmas tree, gets perfectly shaped. You don't have to prune it at all. Has perfect shape to it. But the reason we grow that one is you put it in place and you never prune it. It just stays there and never gets gigantic. There's places for plants like that, like the containers going to your front door, or those planters going into the door. So Joe's Best, just a funky new, again, conifer, evergreen plant. Maybe I should direct cousins. This is a pinyon pine. So like our native pinyon pines. This one I think is better than our native pinyon pine because this is the one you get the nuts off of. So if you've ever had pinyon pine nuts, this is the one. So it's called, my microphone still on, or did I lose a battery? Did I? Give me the other microphone maybe, or give me a second one. We'll see what happens. So we have our folks online can hear us. Because right now I'm just talking and no voice is coming across. So, okay. Check, check, check. There we go. We're back with, sorry, had a microphone go south on me, but I got a second one. We got your back for you. There you go. Okay. Thank you. So this one I think is a better pinyon pine. This is called single leaf pinyon pine, direct cousin of our native one. Only this one doesn't get scale like the native one does. This one doesn't get bark beetle like the native one does. This one puts on the pine tree, the pine nuts much faster and bigger, chunkier, butterier than the native one. So if I were to plant a pinyon pine, this is the one I would go for. It's got a thicker, plumper needle to it. Anyway, just kind of a preferred conifer. And then this one you've never seen before. This is a dwarf white pine. Vanderwolf pine, which is a nice soft-leafed, kind of two-toned, a bigger tree. This one's got a longer needle to it. This is called Whitehurst white pine, but it just does this. It gets maybe above head height, kind of ball-shaped like this, kind of more ball-shaped, not like a pine tree, more like an ornamental. If you're doing a collection of conifers, this is one you put towards the front side of the collection of those taller ones in the back. Just something you've never seen before, because this is their 63rd year, and I've never seen it. When I saw that, I went, pine trees do great here. This is pretty cool. I like that. We're like a paradise, a stopping station. We're a place for them to rest while they keep moving. This is a Huntington carpet rosemary. It gets about maybe this tall and then spreads like this. So it goes out wide. It's one of the few hardy carpet or trailing types of rosemaries. So there's upright, gets up about, I don't know, hip high or so, shrubs, and then there's trailing. So I put this at the front edge of a raised bed or that dry wash. You want to soften up all that rock. I call them ankle busters. Those I don't know, softball size rocks. When you step on them, they just want to move. You want to soften some of that up. This is beautiful right there along that edge. An evergreen just does this. No, nothing eats this. So it's a great little plant. Quick lesson on lavenders. So this is the most popular lavender. I sell 10 of these. I sell 5 of these every one of these. This is Spanish lavender. It's famous because the flower is beautiful. It looks really good on camera and on the front of magazines. That's why. This one is by far the hardiest and the biggest. So if you're doing a landscape, do this one. If you're doing a container or raised beds, do this one. This one will take our cold much better. I've seen this go sub-zero in my own gardens. This is English lavender. Then you've got Spanish lavender. Then you have French lavender. French is what you make the potpourri out of. It's kind of a wuss. It's going to die, but you just harvest it for all the foliage, and then you kind of go, well, if it comes back, great. If it doesn't, well, I knew that. This one, I find in a full sun area, does exceptionally. I've grown this several years in a container, but every once in a while I forget to water it. In the midwinter, it gets real cold, and then it dies. So this one you cannot kill. This is right up there with low maintenance. The difference is, can you see the flower? It's got these real long tendril that kind of flows in the wind kind of stuff. This one has a lot of drama and motion, has a longer bloom cycle than this one does. I brought this one because you have never seen, oh, the camera's out. I don't have to talk to the camera, I can just talk to you all. This one's actually a new color. And just smell that. Doesn't that smell like lavender? Isn't that amazing? It just has that super lavendery smell to it. It's just nothing like it. It's just a crazy. And this is not a very fragrant one. The French lavenders are way more fragrant than this one, but they just smell good. And then animals are not going to eat lavender. I don't know if I can reach that far or not. Good. There you go. So they all smell good, and the herbs are starting to come in. So just a quick lesson on lavenders. We did a lesson on that. These are 2 of the most popular. I got the guy that grew this. He's coming here tomorrow. So Texas sage, you folks from the Texas, Oklahoma, that area, you've always wanted Texas sage. We haven't had one that was hardy enough to grow up here until this year. Now we have one that'll actually grow. This is an evergreen, super drought hardy. I would call this low maintenance. In fact, don't put this on a drip system. Just water it by hand when you remember. The beauty with this one is usually Texas sage has blue foliage. This one's one of the only ones that has silver. And I've got both. You can see them, but I wanted to show you new. Not, you've seen this in every other landscape in Texas. Yeah, this one you've never seen. It's called microburst. It only gets 3 feet tall by 3 feet wide. Much easier to maintain. And then it starts to bloom now, and it'll be nonstop bloom through basically the growing season. So butterflies like it. And then sages, anytime you hear sage or salvia, you know you got a good plant. That javelina, deer, antelope, they're not going to eat. Okay, jackrabbits in Granville or antelope, they're thick out there. So they're not going to eat those. Okay, so it's a good plant. And then as companion plant with this is a #1 seller. This is called Radio Red Salvia or Autumn Sage. This is a new color. So they've always had red. It's kind of a salmony, lighter color. We've had purple last year. We introduced Ignition Purple. We'll have that again this year. This is the brightest, most intense red. And when you're down in the greenhouse down below, you'll find hummingbirds all over this. They can't resist it. So it gets up about, I don't know, just above knee high, kind of ball shaped. I just did trim mine back to about, I don't know, 18 inches, maybe less. I just trimmed it right back, and then I fertilized it. It's already starting to look like it's not blooming, but they're definitely starting to grow their foliage out right now. This usually starts blooming in April and stays blooming right through the entire year. So we'll probably have 10 different colors of this. So we're trying to introduce, it's such a hardy plant for here, we're trying to introduce more colors. No animals eat it, the hummingbirds love it, butterflies are all over it. It's got everything, you hardly have to prune it once a year, just really quick trim. It's got everything we want. So again, low care. Water's gonna be super low water user. Treat it like your trees. If you're gonna kill this, you'll overwater it. So less water, less water will make it bloom longer, better. It'll keep it greener. If you water it too much, it gets yellow, it starts blooming, looks kind of awkward. Same with this. Less water is better for that. Okay. Texas sage, and let me go a couple flowers. Let me think here. How am I going to do this? Let's do this. So couple. Do all 4 of these. We back online for folks?
No,
we miss them?
Lost.
Oh, well, it pays to come to the garden center and see everything. So, poppy. So California poppy is the native one. This is related to that, California poppy. They're the same genus, only this one's it's like the showgirls of Vegas as far as poppies go. Then you got your stepchildren over here. This one is glorious. Loves the cool. Loves bright days, cold nights. So it'll take the snow, keeps blooming. I've had pretty good luck at keeping the animals off of this. Rabbits and javelina are my nemesis in my own gardens. This one tends to not be eaten. And it just does this. You see, as soon as it's done blooming, pinch that one off and you'll see more buds coming up right after it. This will bloom like this through into June. And then once it's 95 out there, it's going to go, I'm kind of done blooming. I'm going to take a break. And then in the fall, it starts to come back and do it again. Okay. So poppies. That's just again, I get bored. So we go, let's put several colors in the same thing. We did the same thing with snapdragons. I put several colors in the same mix. They call this sonnet mix of snapdragons. And again, this looks delicious, but animals, javelina, don't bother this. Great in containers, great in the ground, great in raised beds. Plant it wherever you want. And then it will reseed, come back. It's kind of a wild child. Doesn't look wild, but it likes to seed and come up other places. So as long as it's coming up where you want it, encourage it. If it's coming up where you don't want it, kill it. So keep it under control. So snapdragons are great. And they go well with things like this. In fact, I just shot a video. I think I'm going to let it go out on Sunday because it's a flower festival, right? It's flowers. It's new introductions. Ornamental kale. This is a super strong grower here in the late winter, early spring. It doesn't like the summer. It loves the cold. And so the colder it gets, the brighter the colors get. So I've probably got 4 or 5 colors of this. And the way I like to design with this, I like to do this with containers at the front door. If it's a commercial setting like a hotel, I'll put them in the front, planters up front, because it looks glorious all winter. And then it starts to elongate as we get warmer, and it gets real tall flower to it. It starts to bolt, and the flowers are super fragrant. And so you'll be walking into this establishment, and oh, what's that fragrance? It's not burgers. No, it's the kale are going, welcoming you, going, doesn't it smell good? It's kind of a subtle, it's subtle, much more subtle than roses or lilacs or gardenias, but it's just has all this motion to it. So ornamental, related to edible kale, but it's pretty kale. You could eat this. I've tried it. Don't recommend it. It's very bitter. It's like really bitter. Um, Animals do like this. So don't put it where the rabbits can get to it. They're going to go after it. This one, this is your season. This is your time. My pansies, violas, Johnny jump ups. I've got some new crinkly, kind of funky new pansy varieties that you've never seen before. I just picked this one because I thought it would look good on camera. I don't have to worry about that. So gets this tall and just flows. So mine, I've got a huge bowl. I've got two gigantic bowls of pansies I planted last September. They have been nonstop riotous color, I mean constant color. You'd think they were fake. They're absolutely real. They've got this much snow on them right now. I'm going to keep the snow on them for tonight, just to kind of insulate them. And then I'll scrape that off tomorrow morning, and they'll just go, oh, gosh, doesn't everyone love the snow? You got any people that are like they love the cold? They need it to be really cold, like you're shivering and they're happy. That's this person, okay? I'm not that person. I'm a lizard. I like crawling up on the rocks and warming up. I like beaches and suntans, and I like the summer. My wife is a pansy. She likes the cold. So anyway, pansies. And look, you put that in a container, you just have an instant garden just like that. Boom. It'll bloom all spring long. Get all that. Okay, and then Chris up here. He's my rose guy. He's my flower guy. Chris is he's my nursery. He tracks all the farms for me for trees and shrubs. He loves roses. So he's bringing in more and more roses. I thought I'd bring this one. And I wish there were more in bloom. I brought the three that are showing up in bloom, mainly for a rose lesson. So this is a shrub rose. So there's no graft, just grown in its own rootstock. So the hybrid teas, the floribundas, the grandifloras your grandparents grew, they all had special grafts. And if they died back and they'd come back as this wild cane that wanted to eat your face off, this one doesn't have any of that. Yet it blooms with great big flowers. Not quite as big as a hybrid tea, but it's getting darn close on its own rootstock. What that does for you is, it's called grace and grits. What that does for you is you have less, they're hardier. They don't get the mildew, they don't have bugs, they don't get the thrips and aphids, they just don't have all the problems that their inbred hybrid teas do. So they're much tougher in the landscape. They're called shrub roses. We're trying to bring in more and more of those because they're just so tough. So this is Grace and Grits. It'll be a new introduction this year. And no, it's okay. I shouldn't have brought it. It's barely got a flower. But I brought this one. This is related to that. You know, anything that has a thorn is going to grow in Arizona. Thorns, plants, Arizona, it's going to do well. This is a carpet rose. Again, it's related to shrub roses, which get up, 4 or 5 feet tall. Carpet roses only get up knee high, maybe this tall, and they spread like this, like a carpet. Again, super easy to grow. They don't get the bug. They don't have problems. Animals don't eat them. Good, strong plant. Or if the deer do come in and eat a few buds, good. They did the pruning for you. It'll just grow right out of it, take off again by itself. Super, super low care. I've grown this particular plant. I've got a red one. This is an unusual white one. I've got a red one. It's been in a pot. It's been in a pot about this big, by this deep, for years. And I just trim it back to the rim's edge, fertilize it. It just grows and blooms nonstop. So it's an ever blooming. Once it starts blooming, it always puts more buds on. And you don't have to count back 3 nodes, cut at a 45-degree angle. No, it self prunes, does it all by itself. So it's easy care. This one I brought, only to mention, this is Henry Fonda rose. This is a traditional hybrid tea rose. It's a bright color. It's one of the prettiest yellows, I think, of any of the roses. This is one of the prettiest, brightest yellows. If you like yellow, it's great. If you don't like yellow, you're going, show me the reds. But this is going to be you can just see the buds coming out, long-stemmed rose. I think next week we have our first big load, or maybe it's the week after. I think it's a week after. First week in April, we've got our first big load of hybrid teas, floribundas, your traditional roses. And then it'll be waves of roses after that. So we're trying to focus in on roses because no one does those well. And the varieties that are hardy for here. So we're trying to, we know how to do that. So we're going to get, and I got a horticulturalist that just loves roses. Well, that's a no-brainer. Bring them in. Okay, and then this one, won't pick it up. This is the only thornless rose. It's famous in Arizona. We call it the tombstone rose. We're the only state that does that. You'll see a 200-year-old Lady Banks rose growing in the middle of Tombstone. It's back there when Wyatt Earp was having the shootout. It was planted then. And so this is a giant. I've literally parked my pickup truck underneath this. It's evergreen, no thorns. It's a great little plant. Puts on a little tiny flower like this in spring. So if you have that big kind of huge block walls in the backyard, you want to soften that up, that's a great one. So if you got a trellis, a pergola, that's a great one. Okay, a forsythia and lilac quick lesson. So I've got a brand new lilac. Actually, I've got three. This is spring. This is springtime. This is magical gold forsythia. Forsythia is the next warm day. All the forsythia are going to bust loose. They are all so heavily budded. They're cracking color. All they need is one more day of 70 degrees. All the yellow shrubs are going to be this. I brought this one because magical gold has a bigger flower, richer, deeper color to it. So there are different grades of plants. Forsythia is not just a forsythia. It's not just a forsythia. You're not going to find this one at Home Depot. It's only going to be at Waters Garden Center. It's a new variety, and you can see the flowers are bigger. There's more of them, and they're brighter. They're deeper, rich, not brighter, richer yellow. This is more of the traditional forsythia. What the difference is with this, we dwarfed it. So this is a traditional forsythia, but it only gets this big instead of this big. So now you can plant it right on that edge of the patios. You can have it in other parts of the gardens without all the maintenance to keep it back in check. So regular forsythia are kind of like butterfly bush. They're monsters. You better really whack on them every spring, or they'll get as big as a garden shed. So they're kind of high maintenance. Too big for most of the lots we have out anymore. Well, this one we just dwarfed it. To put on a different rootstock, all of a sudden you got the same flower, only gets this big. No pruning again. And then this one. This is a new, brand new, never seen this one. This is here, the camera. Oh, back, okay. This is called Little Darling, and it's got a freakishly fun, can you see that? Flower to it. It's got a lighter blue to it. Very fragrant flower. It's dwarfed, only gets this big. Most lilac get gigantic. Like I use one to shade my office. It's 12 feet tall. Traditional, I used white because I like the fragrance of white. This is more of a traditional blue. It's not even purple. It's a light blue color. So you usually see blue for lilacs. And then this one will bloom twice. That's a beauty. Dwarfed and blooms twice. Blooms now, and towards the end of the monsoon season, it'll be in full bloom again with the same flowers. Flowers a little bit smaller, not quite as big as the big pinnacles you have with your traditional, but it puts on more of them. So it has the same fragrance to it. Okay, great plant. Super drought hardy. Animals don't eat this. Every yard needs at least one of each. So great plants for here. Then I mentioned butterfly bush. How are we doing on time? Perfect. I brought butterfly bush. We're just starting to get these in. They just leafed out. It's always lilacs bloom and then butterfly bush blooms. Or another name for butterfly bush is summer lilac because it has the same kind of flower, but it blooms in the summer. So again, butterflies love butterfly bush. I brought this one because it's dwarfed. Okay, most butterfly bush are 12-foot giants. very aggressive, too aggressive. They're too much maintenance. So we're trying to find more and more varieties that we can control. So this is called Little Miss Molly. Is that right? Yeah, Miss Molly. Now it goes from 12 feet, only gets this tall. Same flower, same exact flower, same big flower, but now it's the perfect size for raised beds down the driveway. This one loves full, bright, hot sun. More sun equals more flowers. And there's several other colors here. I wish it was in bloom another month. I'll show it off at a garden class and it'll be in bloom. So, but by then, the lilacs will lilacs will open up in the next warm day. They're all going to be open. So they'll be kind of finishing up, and then these guys will be coming online. So that's the only reason I brought that. Shade plants. So I had natives, conifers, low maintenance. We've got blooming new rose things, shade. We got to start with this one. Kind of, winter's coming to an end when this one goes into bloom. This is the very first plant to bloom in the gardens. It's called hellebore or Lenten rose. It's an evergreen perennial, so it looks like this year round, but then it puts this on. It's been in bloom for a month. So, and it'll do the same in your yard. Every kind of guaranteed, year after year, you get this. The reason it's so robust, it got a real thick, leathery leaf to it. The javelina aren't going to bother this. Put it right there in the front yard. Going to be glorious. It does not like sun. It likes the shade. So this will look great in a container under the covered patio, front entrance of your door, north side of your house, under the canopy of trees. That's where you plant this. So if you plant it with your hostas, gardenias, rhododendrons, azaleas, they all go together. They're all companions. Comes in a lot of colors. But I brought it just because I always have this really early in the spring, and then when the crop is gone by spring, only my gardeners know what this is. The regular folks only make one trip to the garden center a year to get their container basket and their hanging basket. They never see these because they've all been sold out. They're all gone. So, but hellebores are a great plant. You plant those with this. This came in just yesterday. This is Lily of the Valley, or Pieris. It's an evergreen shrub. It looks like this, kind of green like that year round, but then it starts to put this flower on. It's had this flower, it's been forming for all winter. It's quite the tease. It says, I'm going to bloom. I'm going to start to bloom. Look, I'm loaded with flowers. I'm going to bloom. I'm going to bloom. You're going, when are you going to bloom? Now. So it's first warm day in spring, it starts to bloom, and it's super fragrant. You'll know it's actually finally opened when you could smell it, and it'll fill up the entire part of that part of the garden. So it's an amazing plant. Doesn't like sun, so these are the shade plants. It'll take some morning sun. It's not going to take that midday June. It's not going to like 90 degrees in full sun at noon, even in Granville. It's going to want to be more protected. So that's where you kind of place it just right. Crazy long bloom time. Blooms for 2-3 months. Crazy long bloom time. Again, this one's been in bloom for months too. So this one and this one kind of bloomed. They're the first ones. So this one starts blooming when this one starts blooming. This is camellia. You folks from California, you love your camellias. Most camellias are tropical. This is one of the only, I've got 2, maybe there's 3 left down there, 3 colors that are the hardy varieties. This goes down to 0 degrees, easily. Done it personally. And then it starts to bloom. It's been budded out for months and months, since November. It's had flower buds. And then it finally started to open. It just has these waves of colors of these camellia flowers to them. Bees like it. Hummingbirds seem to like it. Personal experience, elk don't eat it. So I know deer aren't going to eat it. So you can put it right out there. And if your neighbors are feeding the deer and they graze through your yard as they're going upstream, they're not going to bother this one. So good strong plant. Again, it'll take a lot of sun, but it's not going to thrive in that full day sun. Where I grew it, I had it under the canopy of trees. We got some morning. It got dappled sun. It was magnificent. I made a hedge out of it. Just kind of cut it down to hip high It'll naturally go up to here, but it likes to be cut on and get real thick. Um, so anyway, camellia. I think this is called Ice Princess. Good strong name for a hardy camellia. Ah, don't break the lily of the valley. And then 3 shrubs and we'll end it. And I can take questions. I had some garden advice. I'll give you 2 bits of garden advice you can take home right now that'll make a difference. Maybe I'll do 3 shrubs and 2 flowers. So this is magnolia. There's 2 types of magnolias. There's the evergreen southern magnolia. The traditional southern magnolia, we're right at the cusp of where it grows. So the really big ones, they're natural down to Sedona, Camp Verde, those that 4,000 foot level and below, they like it. There's a variety called Alta magnolia. It's a dwarfed variety of the southern. It's evergreen, has that big white flower to it, very fragrant. I've personally grown 2 of those in my own gardens. They've got anyway, I won't describe where it is, but I've got 2 that are magnificent. And they've gone down to 0 degrees with me and done great. Slow grower. So mine are been in the ground maybe 10 years. They're probably 12 to 15 feet tall now. So it's 2 matching pairs. This one is a deciduous variety of magnolia. I think these are hardier. They're tougher. I think these go down to minus 20 or minus 30 degrees. Some crazy cold we'll never see. And they're deciduous. They'll lose their leaves in the winter and they come out in spring. They always bloom first. And then they'll have these beautiful magnolia leaves to them. So this happens to be the shrub form of star magnolia. This one is so tough. I've spotted it into commercial settings. Done just fine. Full sun, done just fine. Animals did not eat it. Did just fine. So water, put it on a drip system, water it like you would any other tree in the yard. It's going to thrive. Real deep roots to it. I also have it in purple, and pink, and red, and white. So you have a lot more. I think yellow was down there. So you have a lot more color choices with the deciduous varieties of magnolias. Whereas the southern magnolia only comes in one color, white. Anyway, quick lesson on magnolias. These 2, this one went into bloom. There was no stopping it. It's just, spring's here. The shrubs know it and they're going to go. There's no holding them back. We're putting them out in the cold, just going, maybe the cold will hold them. No, they're still going to bloom. This is rhododendron. So rhodies and azaleas both grow here. You got to get the right variety. So there's some that are hardier than others. So that's why you're coming to us. We're curating that. So we bring in the proven models. This is PJM rhododendron. It's a dwarf. So most rhodies get gigantic. This one only gets, again, kind of that cute size to it. It just does this. It's evergreen. So it has that. And then it just does this in the spring. You can see the buds. It's just loaded up with buds. And now the leaves are starting to come out. Again, more shaded areas. So you're up in the pine trees or north side, or you've got some shade trees. Great place for these. Just consistent, easy to grow. And they go with, this is one I have on every patio of my house, and then we have a lot of patios. We like to entertain, and we just have lots of patios. I put this in a container for the fragrance because it blooms like nothing else. Gardenia. Nothing smells like a gardenia. Now there's a lot. Gardenias are a huge family of plants. Most of them are wimps. They won't, if you look at them cold, they die. Not these. We've got 2 varieties down there that are consistent growers. I grow this in pots. I leave them out in the yard in the cold, and they're fine. They'll take the cold, evergreen. They put the flowers a little bit smaller, so maybe the flowers get this big instead of the traditional gardenia size, but it puts on more of them and the same fragrance. So this is a dwarf variety. Gets up maybe like this, that big. So it doesn't get as big, not the big shrubs like you folks from the South. You like your gardenias big, like your hydrangeas. Big. Bigger is better. 40 extra cents, supersize it. That's not this one. This is cute, not in your face. I'll just be here to smell good when you have your neighbors over and we sip a glass of wine or snow is falling. So anyway, that's a good one. It's called Sweet Star Gardenia. And there's 2 different models down there, maybe 3. So again, hardy down to 0 degrees or less. And then 2 flowers. This one is our native columbine. So it's a wild one that grows at this elevation and above, goes all the way up to Flagstaff. You'll see a yellow one. And the yellow, the reason it's yellow is the animals don't like the yellow. But it's such a pretty, delicate flower that we also grow it in red, blue, purple, different colors. And so you'll see those down there as well. I could tell you that the animals can eat the colored ones. The yellow ones, they don't. So I wouldn't put this right out there where Javelina are roaming around and go with the blue one. Because you'll never get they'll eat the flower. They'll leave the foliage, they'll eat the flower. Well, you're planting this for that beautiful color to it. So quick columbine lesson. And this is a new color of heuchera or coral bells. So we specialize in coral. We specialize in perennials, those plants that come back year after year. The reason the box stores don't like perennials because you gotta hold on to them for another year. For them to look good, they need to be 2 years old. That peony I showed you, that thing's 5 years old. It's been at the farm for 5 years. They're not going to sell that because you got to get your money for it because it's so specialized. It's just not. There's no farmer that's going to grow that for that long. They want crops at 6 weeks. Put the seed in 6 weeks later, they got it out there and they die in the winter. That's what they want. Well, we want that too, but that's boring. We get the unusual things. So heucheras are one of those. Comes in a lot of colors. Purples and blacks and greens and fuchsias and gold. And so it just gets a nice mound like this. And then it does put on like hundreds of coral bell flowers on top. But really what you're planting heucheras for it's the foliage. This is what you're after. I've grown it in the shade. I've grown it in the sun. And kind of an insider designer tip, what I do with these when I plant a new tree, I don't like the way, we're not into lawns and stuff here. So we like our rock going right up to the trunk of a tree, and it looks harsh. So I like an underplanting. So where that drip system's going to that new tree, I plant a heuchera. So it'll take the same water cycle as a tree, but also it'll take the sun when it's small, and as it matures, it'll also take the shade. So you get this beautiful underplanting underneath the tree that just looks very handsome, very, very, very natural. And now it looks like my yard is alive, like everything is growing. It's just a few design techniques that help it look better than maybe it should. Anyway, heucheras are great. With that, quick lesson. You should be fertilizing everything in the yard right now. I know you get tired of me talking, but it's important. Plants they're going to wake up super hungry. And if you don't do this, the leaves will be smaller. There'll be less of them, less fruit, smaller. They'll be yellow. There'll be chlorosis. So just put this down. All-purpose plant food. It's granular. Put it over the snow. Let the snow do all the work for you. There's an opportunity with the storm the next week or so. Nature's going to do all the work for you, which is great. So put that down. And then bugs. We've got scale and pinyon pine. Hopefully this snow and cold will cut back on some of the bugs. I have a feeling it won't because this is not a cold storm. It's a wet storm. So we need to go down to teens, single digits to really kill the bugs. We're not going to see that at this point. So all the bugs have wintered with us. It hasn't been cold enough to hold them back or kill them off or thin them. And so they're rampant in the pine trees. If you've got pine trees, treat them with tree and shrub drench. It's something you can do this yourself. Watering can. You just pour it right at the trunk, right where the trunk meets the soil. Put it right there. The plant will pick it up, take it underneath the bark, up to the structure of the tree, and protect all that bark that the bark beetles are eating. It'll taint that so they won't eat that. Scale are out on the pinyon pines. It's a little tiny bug that attaches itself to the needles and they suck the needles dry till the plant starves to death. It taints the sap inside the needle so it gets rid of the bugs. One application of tree and shrub drench, good for a year. Okay. One, you can do this. You don't have to pay $800 to someone to come spray your trees. You can do this for under $100 yourself. Super easy, and it lasts longer. Just say that because there's so many bugs out right now. I did mention tomatoes and peppers. So we brought some of these in because I know gardeners shop here. Waters Gardens is a place where people who love to garden love to shop. I know gardener, we're set up for gardeners. Gardeners they want to be in July 4th. They're going to the rodeo, and while they're there, they're talking to all their friends, going, I just picked my first tomato. It was so good. There's bragging rights. They're starting now in a container, in a whiskey barrel, and every day they roll it out in the sun, and every night they roll it back in the garage, and they're doing this, or they have greenhouses, so we bring in some tomatoes for those people. And you know who you are. You know who you are. Come on down. We've got them. We try to go with a little bit bigger size because, again, the kind of gardener that's buying one of these, they're trying to cheat it and get it going faster. And so we've got that. This is a better boy tomato. It's smaller. It's about that big. So I'd say stay away from the really big, like beefsteak. If it has the word beefsteak, I don't know, beef in it, it's probably too big. They just don't produce fast enough for us because of cold nights. So the medium size do better. how they create these new plants. They'll be here tomorrow. And I'm going to have them teach the class, I hope. I'm going to try to capture a couple of their interviews on the radio show. So because they share really good stories if you can ask the right questions. But before you go, I'll let you clap because it makes me feel good. Thank you all for being here. My diehard for being here. Thanks for. I wasn't sure. There's snowing this morning, but this may not be a good idea having a spring flower festival in the snow, but my gardeners like it, so it's good. Here, I'll give this to you. I made a calendar only because you traipsed through the snow. I put this calendar together. It's pretty, but it's not about. It's about the garden advice each month. So what I did is I took all the advice, what you want to look at, or do. Hopefully, brought it up. Money. So each month you'll find, and when it's all for 2026, keep it because the advice never changes. In March, you'll notice you fertilize. The same advice every month. You're kind of working. This is the way for the mountains. This for here. This is the garden advice. If you're giving this to your friends down in Phoenix, just enjoy the pretty pictures because the advice doesn't work down there, only up here. So anyway, that'll help you. All right, you all, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
The shade plants.
Yeah.
Can I grow those under big mature pines and
super well. That's the place. That's where they're super high. That's where their shade. Although I'm stunned at how much sun they take. So I've got a big 2.5-story house, north side. It's my summer place to hang out. It's shaded. They'll bring that full shade. You might get an hour morning and evening, then nothing else. But it also grows quickly as well. Front patio, which I get more. And it's direct west. It's only the end of the day, 3 o'clock on. It's hot. It's not that big. It's not that intense. So it does pretty intense. So play with it. Yeah. 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 That one's not noted for being allergic stuff. No. It's not a heavy pollen thing. Well, you've got everything. It's almost not fair. It's almost overwhelming sometimes. So that's probably where the herbs and stuff do that too. Their oils and stuff too. Yeah, right there. That's a carpet. That's the trailing. Yeah, that's where you use the word rock's edge, the dry wash. It's always harsh. Some soften it up right there next to the patio. You don't want something getting so big it starts to encroach on your space. It stays. It's raised beds. It's still a touch early. Strawberries are starting to come out with the gardeners. I'm trying to bring them in with the gardeners ready. I've got them. We're drawing from they're getting the VA. They're stopping by. Pick up the back. So we're trying to bring them in all over the place. I will. Yeah. Usually that'll be April, part of May. They're a shade. Yeah. I'll have the white, the pink, and the red. I've got 3 colors. But again, I've got 3 of them to keep track of that stuff. I've got people that make me look better than I should. And I'm allowed to look, actually. Sorry.
Kia, but it doesn't.
There's several. So Itos can be a single, really big single. So double. So it's small. Really looking. We're all fragrant.
I do.
That's probably the same. So he had 6 or 8 varieties. Yeah. We only featured a couple that were super, like, they were rare. I've never seen them before. You got those. And some of the others you've seen, try to bring in, feature the limited stock.
That is $4.
It's not related to the other brand. Years is the
It's
there, yeah.